All right, let's talk about one of the most game-changing personal finance books ever written, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We're going to break down the core idea that pretty much turned how millions of people think about money completely on its head, all through the story of one guy and his two very, very different dads.
And really, this one sentence is the whole book in a nutshell. I mean, imagine being a kid and getting two completely opposite rule books for how money works. That's exactly what the author Robert Kiyosaki had. And that contrast, that choice, is what forced him to really think for himself and ended up shaping his entire life.
So who were these two dads? Well, on one side, you've got Poor Dad, who was his actual father. A super smart guy. I mean, he had a PhD, was the head of education in Hawaii, but he was always fighting to make ends meet. And then you have a Rich Dad. He was his best friend's father, an eighth-grade dropout who built a massive business empire. The real difference wasn't their income, it was their mindset. Okay, let's really dig into what these opposing mindsets looked like. Because the advice Kiyosaki was getting wasn't just a little different, we're talking night and day. These clashes are where all the core lessons of the book come from. It all starts with how they felt about money itself. Poor Dad had that classic view that money is somehow bad, maybe even corrupting. But Rich Dad, he saw things completely differently. For him, it was the lack of money that caused all the problems. So right away, you have one person avoiding it and another person pursuing it. And this one perfectly sums up their views on your career. Poor Dad's advice is what most of us hear, right? Study hard, get a good, safe job. It's about being a great employee. Rich Dad's advice just flips it on its head. Study hard so you can buy the company. One path is about climbing the ladder, the other is about owning the ladder. Okay, now this is one of the book's most controversial ideas. Most of us are taught to believe what Poor Dad said. Your house is your biggest asset. But Rich Dad taught that an asset is something that puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. So that house, with its mortgage, taxes, and repairs, is constantly taking money out. It's a liability, not an asset, unless it's also making you money. This one is absolutely huge. Poor Dad's whole approach came from a place of fear. Just play it safe, avoid risk no matter what. Rich Dad's approach came from a place of education. He didn't say to be reckless. He said you have to learn how to manage risk, not just run away from it. This is one of those powerful Rich Dad quotes that really sticks with you. See, being broke is just a situation. It's temporary. You don't have cash right now. But being poor, that's a mindset. It's a way of thinking that keeps you right where you are, stuck in that cycle.
So how in the world does a 9-year-old kid start to understand these big ideas? Well, it wasn't in a classroom. Rich Dad's first lesson was hands-on. And to be honest, it was kind of a painful wake-up call designed to feel just like real life.
And this is where it all started. A young Kiyosaki felt left out by some of the richer kids, so he went and asked his highly educated dad for the answer. But his poor dad didn't have one. All he said was, use your head. So that's what sent him and his buddy Mike over to Rich Dad to find some real answers.
Rich Dad agreed to teach them, but not by talking. He put them to work. He had them spending their Saturday mornings dusting off canned goods in one of his convenience stores. And they thought, okay, I guess this is the first step to making money.
And their pay for all that work? 10 cents an hour. Even back then, that was basically nothing. After a few weeks of this, Kiyosaki was mad. He felt used, underpaid, and he was totally ready to quit. Just imagine feeling that way as a 9-year-old. But that was the entire point of the lesson. So when Kiyosaki finally confronted him, Rich Dad let him in on the secret. The terrible pay, the boring job, it was a setup. It was a simulation of what most people go through their entire lives, working their tails off for little money, being mad at their boss, and feeling completely stuck. It was their first taste of the rat race. And that taste of life set the stage for the single most important lesson in the whole book. This is the idea that truly separates the financial path of the rich from just about everyone else. So here it is, the big one. Lesson number 1, the rich don't work for money. See, most people, the poor and the middle class, follow the pattern of working for a paycheck. Rich Dad taught that the real goal isn't to get a bigger salary, it's to get assets that make money for you, even when you're not working. And when you think about it, it's all about power and control. If your only income is a paycheck, your employer has all the power.
But when you build systems where money is working for you through businesses, investments, whatever, then you're the one in control. It's about taking back control of your own financial life.
So let's actually look at what this means. On the left is the cash flow for most people. The money comes in from a job and then flows right back out to pay for the mortgage, car payments, all the bills. Now look at the right. This is the rich dad model. They focus on building up that asset column first. And those assets, businesses, real estate, they generate their own income, which then pays for everything else. It's a cycle of growth, not a cycle of bills.
So all of this, the two opposing viewpoints, that first really tough lesson, it all led to a 9-year-old boy having to make a choice that would change his entire life.
He had to pick a side. And in what must have been an incredibly tough decision, he chose to follow the advice of his rich dad instead of his own father, the guy with all the degrees. That one choice at 9 years old set the direction for the rest of his life.
The author often uses this famous Robert Frost poem to describe that moment. There was the conventional path, the safe one everyone recommends. And then there was the other path, the path of financial education and entrepreneurship. He took the one less traveled. And that brings it all back to us, right? Because this book isn't just a story. It's meant to be a mirror. It forces you to look at your own life and ask, are you following the mindset of working for money, or are you learning how to have money work for you? At the end of the day, which dad's advice are you following? And which path are you really on?